Ah, yes, America, land of the free, home of rednecks, diabetes, mini memes, and oranges. We all know and love America we have today. A matter of fact, people love talking about it so much they argue about it over the internet. But what if in an alternate timeline that doesn't happen? The America we know today does not happen. What if America lost its revolution? This is the lore of the Hearts of Iron 4 mod, Liberty Lost, I am developing right now. So the divergence point of the mod is in 1715, where the Spanish don't make a rebound after the Spanish War of Secession, and slowly but surely its political influence diminishes. Fast forward to 1757, and the war is the middle of the 7 Years' War. George Washington dies, but hey, Britain still wins the war. But Britain is severely broke, so they tax the colonies. The colonies get rowdy, that leads to American Revolution, yada yada yada, you know the drill. Now this is a timeline where it really diverts off, and that is when the British win the Battle of Santiago. How, you might ask? One man does his job. You see, the reason they lost is one guy went on a personal glory spree and indirectly caused the British to lose the war. And that beautiful man was named William Howe, who was a general in the British Army. The plan for the battle was for General Howe and General Burgoyne to cut through New York from the north and south and split the colonies there too.
But Howe decides to go on a personal glory spree
and attack the continental capital of Philadelphia instead of going to plan. And the British lost the battle thanks to him. But in this timeline, he does his job. They take over New York and split the colonies in two. And like the Confederacy, this kills the revolution. Seeing this, the French decide not to intervene, which would be a good idea on their part, because entering the revolution, our timeline, was a shot in the foot, which eventually led to the French Revolution. But this kills the Continental Revolution, which is now in a downward climb. And a year later, on December 12th, 1778, the Continental Congress surrenders at Atlanta, and the American Revolution ends. But wait, there's more. You know how I mentioned Spain earlier? Well, because they didn't recover as well in the 1700s, they become a little desperate and try to gain some influence, power, and prestige back. They saw the United States as a way to do it, and they utterly failed, and were beat back by the British at the Peace Conference. The British say, "Oh, we're going to take Louisiana and a few other colonies from you. Can I at least have Florida back?" Sure, why not? As you expect, the populace were pissed, just like my parents when I get 73 on a chemistry test. But where the populace were most angry was in the colonies. And they had every right to, because they fought for homeland in their soul. Where have you seen that before? And insert seeds for revolution. It also didn't help that Spain was in major debt after the war, so they did what any logical authoritarian monarch would do: tax the colonies. The colonies appealed to the Spanish government on taxation. Can you guess what the Spanish government did? They sent a letter that said denied. Also, the crown issued a conscription law which required the military service for every man of age, even for the colonies. This happened to the Filipinos, so imagine that, plus 10 times the paranoia. The colonies appealed again to the Spanish government, and you guessed it again, they sent a letter that said denied. By this time, the colonies had had it, and in 1792, the Republic of Mexico was established and declared independence from Spain. This starts a chain reaction of revolts in Latin America, except for Portuguese Brazil, which was, of course, swimming in gold because of all these wars. And, well, Portugal was wealthy. Okay, you might be asking now, what else is happening in the world? Well, nothing is going on in Europe for now. Wait, there's a Jacobin uprising in Paris, and it killed King Louis. Wait, never mind, his brother Charles crushed it. But colonization elsewhere in the world was still chugging along. Here's a brief overview of colonization so far. In India, since the British didn't lose the southern colonies and their cash crops, they didn't push too far into India, but just stayed in Bengal, while the French, on the other hand, began investing a lot more into India and establishing puppet states on the eastern coast, and Portugal got in action too, with them owning parts of the western coast. In Africa, the Dutch began colonizing on the southern coast, well, with no interference with the British. In Australia, the English still colonized New South Wales and the eastern coast, while the French began colonizing the western coast. You might be asking, what's going on in the colonies? Well, after the Revolution, the British had a strong military rule over the colonies and established what would be called a military junta today. But one thing that did change that the colonists wanted is they could finally go after the Appalachians and settle land to the west, because while having half of your colony unsettled is a bad idea, and the British were worried the French or Spanish might try to steal the land back, so they sent settlers out west, much to the Native Americans' dismay. But the newly conquered Louisiana territory and the area surrounding New Orleans, there were a lot of French-speaking Cajuns, and they didn't like English settlers settling their land, so they rioted, and the British government said, "What do you want?" What? Say it again and I'll Google Translate.
We don't want to be jumbled with the rest of your colonies, so can we have some autonomy?
Okay, that's fine with me, and a system that would be placed for hundreds of years to come was born, the Commonwealth system. I'll get back to that in the next video. At this time, unlike popular theory that America would be the renegade colony in the British Empire, they would have a rebel mindset just like the South, the American policy would actually have a remorse because of the British propaganda and all the other opposition silenced. But the populace would want to go back to the way of life before the revolution. Well, America, you got your chance. Remember how I said earlier the Spanish populace were getting pissed at the crown? Well, in January 1801, the Latin American colonies kicked the Spanish out for good, except in Florida, which they remained loyal to the crown, which that's a surprise tool that will help them later. And the men returning for home were inspired to revolt. On May 5th, 1801, the people marched on Madrid and ousted the king and replaced him with the Federal Republic. This angered the French, who were allied with the Spanish monarch, and they quickly began to assemble a force of monarchists to take back the throne. With the support of the French, the monarchists began a campaign in northern Castile. And that's where I'm going to end it. Part 2 is coming soon, and probably with 2 or 3 more. I don't know yet, but the lore is going all the way up to 1936. Yay. So subscribe to make this unending pain a little bit less miserable, and join the subreddit r/LibertyLost for updates on the mod.